Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and here at this channel we talk all about mental health, personal development, and understanding our own psychology. And today we're going to be talking all about the fear of decluttering our past and really our sense of ourself. Now, a few months back, I made a video on the channel about hoarding sentimental items, which many of you wrote in and said really struck a chord with you, and it's definitely something that I can relate to as well. I think many of us do have that tendency to want to keep things that are nostalgic, from movie tickets to our children's Halloween costumes, maybe, to our grandmother's china. So if you want a little bit more information about that, I will go ahead and link that video down in the description box below. But today I wanted to specifically talk about something that I did touch upon at least a little bit in that video. And it's something that really started coming up for me again recently. So I had to spend some time really picking it apart and analyzing it. And I wanted to share my findings with you. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I do tend to make a lot of videos about decluttering and clutter and disorganization in general. And that is because it's something that I greatly struggled with for much of my life. I thought it was an absolutely hopeless situation, but I was able to fully overcome it and understand it. And now it is my pleasure to be able to help other people along on this same journey. I also want to stress the fact that self-love and self-compassion must be a part of this journey. We can't go forward if we are constantly blaming ourselves or thinking about what we perceive to be mistakes or bad habits from the past. It doesn't matter. We are going to move forward, and that is absolutely possible to do. So again, like I said, today we're talking about that fear of decluttering our past, and really that fear that we're going to let go of the past by decluttering. And by the past, we're specifically talking about our sense of self. So in order to do this, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about my own journey, then I'm going to talk about the psychology behind all of this, and then we'll get to solutions. So for me personally, I was always a collector, which is a subject for a whole nother video, but I also just never really threw anything away. In fact, whenever I would move from apartment to apartment, I would just box everything up and take it all with me. I never threw anything away. I never gave anything away. I didn't even look through it, didn't even matter. And then finally, I moved into a house that I was going to stay in for 10 years, and believe me, the stuff just kept accumulating. And then I had a huge life change, and I was going to be traveling around the country, and I was going to be living in a bunch of different places, and there was absolutely no way that I could take this stuff with me. In fact, I had to get rid of about 95% of all my possessions. Now, believe it or not, even though I have struggled with decluttering all my life, some of the items that I had to give away really weren't that problematic for me, especially when I was able to give them to people who I felt really needed them or would appreciate them or get value from them. I was able to get rid of even electronics and big items and furniture with no problem, and I was able to get rid of all those things that I was holding on to because I thought I would need it in the future. However, here's what really got me. I was unable to part with the things that I felt were directly tied to my past and to my sense of self, the personal items. So for me, the biggest things were clothes, jewelry, trinkets, awards, diaries, anything that had a specific reminder about a place or time. I just could not let these items go. So if this is something that you can relate to, please keep watching, because I think I can shed a little bit of light on it and help you make informed decisions about what you may want to hold on to and what you may want to let go of if you are ready to take that step in your life. Before we go any further, however, I want to assure you that I am in no way a minimalist. I have no problem with that lifestyle. It just does not happen to be my own lifestyle. And I'm also not someone that is going to tell you to throw away all the things that make you happy in your life. I simply try to help people make their own decisions about what to keep. But I do have to point out that we know for sure that clutter and disorganization and hoarding absolutely does negatively affect our mental health. And this is something that I have a few videos about. I will go ahead and link those down in the description box below in case you want a little bit more information about that. And while I personally think it's fine to keep some items from our past, many of us go well above that, well beyond that. And it's important for us to understand why, because there's no way we can change our behavior unless we understand why that behavior is there in the first place. And it's so essential that we really get to the root of these issues, because it's from there, and really only from there, that we can make healthy decisions about our lives and about our possessions. So let's start by talking about what could be going on. And I want to start with the concept of how our possessions start to become extensions of ourself. Now, this really starts in our childhood. We usually have some kind of sacred item, like a blanket or a stuffed toy, that we get really, really attached to. We feel like it's a part of ourselves, and we feel like we can't sleep without it, or maybe we can't do certain activities without it. So it just becomes something that we feel that we need, and again, is really part of our own self. And as we get a little older, maybe into our teens, we start to use material objects to really build up our self-esteem. And in some cases, especially during adolescence, we use these objects to make other people jealous. And they can be kind of an outward show of who we are, who we think we are, or who we really want to be. And of course, as we get older and older, our stuff just becomes more and more infused with our personas and our identities. We have an outward symbol showing people, this is the way I dress. This is the type of car I drive. This is the type of music I listen to. These are the types of hobbies I have. I have all these outward signs, so you know specifically who I am. And of course, now we even have social media, so even when we can't show everyone our possessions directly, we can certainly show them through the lens. So they are seeing our apartment, they're seeing our things, they are seeing this physical demonstration of who we are saying we are, which in turn really makes us even more attached to these objects. So simply put, we start to internalize our possessions, and they start to represent who we were, who we are, and even who we want to be. So we are attached to all these things because they really represent to us our past, our present, and our future. And we can already see how this can start to become incredibly problematic. The more an object becomes infused with our identity, the more we're going to want to protect it. So even a t-shirt, and t-shirts are a really big one for me, but even a t-shirt can seem like something that we have to protect, that we have to keep because it's part of our past or it's part of who we are right now, and it becomes very hard to let go of. And this concept is something that's easily demonstrated when we think about when something personal is stolen from us. It's not usually about that monetary value, it's really the psychological impact of losing something that we feel is really a part of ourself. Now, in the sentimental hoarding video, I talk about a psychological concept called sacralization, which is when we believe that possessions that were owned by someone who is now deceased somehow still have their magical essence inside of it. So we never want to throw anything away that belonged to that person because we feel like we are kind of throwing them away. We see this a lot when people have things that belonged to deceased celebrities, even things that aren't valuable at all, like a pencil or a napkin. If it is Elvis Presley's napkin, it's something that we are probably not going to want to throw away because we feel like if we touch it, we're close to that person somehow because their essence is somehow inside of that napkin. And I want to go ahead and take this a little bit further. By the way, I'm not saying it really is in the napkin, but we can feel that way. I want to take this concept a little further because I also believe that sacralization can happen with our own possessions even though we are still alive. If we feel that part of our life or an aspect of ourselves is no longer with us for some reason, maybe we are in a different phase of life or we have a different career, or there's just something that is no longer a part of our life, we can feel like the objects that are associated with those parts of our lives that were maybe very happy are going to be officially gone because we let it go. So we feel like if we're holding on to this object, the essence of that time is still with us. So we feel like like maybe we're able to kind of keep the past alive in that way. I think sadly many of us feel that the best parts of our life are over, and of course that's not true. Of course we can create anything we want in our future, but we don't always believe that. We don't always think that that is true, so we feel like we have to live in the past because that's the best it's ever going to be, and we think that these objects kind of help keep that past alive. We may also feel that we need these objects to let other people know that we are important, that we've done exciting and interesting things in our life, that we've had accomplishments, so that we can show people, look at this, look at all we've done, I have this, look at who I am or who I was. And we use these things to validate ourselves in the eyes of other people, and sometimes even in our own eyes. And this is something that I specifically struggled with, and I talk all about that also in the sentimental hoarding video. I give my story about how I was using these objects for validation, and how I was able to work through it and finally let these items go. And lastly, I think that many of us just want to have a physical history of our life. We feel the need of almost having a museum of our past, of who we were and who we are now. And we feel like if we don't have all these physical artifacts, parts of our past and parts of who we are will simply get washed away. Now, if you feel like a lot of the things that I've been saying really make sense for you, or really strike a chord, or things that you really resonate with, please do not despair, because if this is something that you want to make a change in your life about, if you want to start to let go of some of these things, it is absolutely possible to do so. We can absolutely change, especially when we can realize that this is a perfectly normal thing to be experiencing. We can feel validated when we know that there is a psychological basis for why we may be attached to some of these items. But that does not mean that we can't change. We can be self-compassionate, we can be self-understanding, but yet we can still make changes in our life. So let's go ahead and talk about how we can do that. What I have found to be the absolute most helpful part of this process is an exercise in self-analysis that I'm going to walk you through right now. All it is a series of questions. Now, it's a lot of questions, but trust me, they are all important, and all you have to do for now is simply write these questions down. I will go ahead and talk you through them, and I will write them on the screen so you have them. And at a later time, I want you to just give this some honest, critical thought and answer these questions as openly as you can. You do not have to share these answers with anyone, but this is going to help you really understand yourself, why you are keeping these items, and then make healthy, informed decisions about what to do with these possessions. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to decide to give them all away, but these questions will give you the tools to be able to make these informed decisions yourself. So let's go ahead and start. The first question is, who am I keeping this for? If no one ever saw it, would this still have value? Am I keeping it so I can be validated by other people? If so, why do I need this validation? Are there aspects of my life that still need to heal? Do I feel unworthy? Do I feel that I am not enough? Do I feel deep down that having this object makes me feel more valuable or more interesting as a person? What do I gain by keeping this? Or on the flip side, is this item holding me back? So for example, is having this item keeping me chained to the past in a way that isn't allowing me to create new memories or new possibilities in my life? Are these objects keeping me from reinventing myself or starting on a new page? Am I confusing who I am with what I have? Am I any less me without having this object or any object? If everything I owned got swept away in a tidal wave, would I be any less myself? What are these objects costing me? Are they interfering with my mental health, my relationships, my ability to live in a clean, clutter-free environment? What am I losing by keeping this? And once we have the answers to all these questions, we are going to have invaluable insight that helps us not only understand what's going on for ourselves, but it helps us to answer the big question, which is, what is the real fear here. We have to understand that so much of our behavior is really truly driven by fear. Once we understand what the fear is, we can start to overcome it. We can eventually walk away from it. And in our case, we can start to let go of these items, because when we are just reacting out of fear, we are just going to keep clinging on to these items because we are too scared to address the real issues behind them. But once we work through these issues, these objects start to become less and less important. So ask yourself, what is the fear? What is the difference, for example, between having this item and having a photograph of the item? And if there really is no difference for you, then, well, the problem is already solved. We can let go of the objects and simply have these photographs. But if not, we really need to have that self-compassion and understand why, and then truly start to address these issues. Being able to truly overcome this issue comes down to just doing a few simple things. The first thing is separating who we are with our stuff and realizing that these things don't define us, and they never did, and they never will. They are part of our story and our path, but they are just things. They are not magical in any way. Our memories transport us to the past, not objects. We can recall our past without having these artifacts. And then we just simply have to keep these things in mind as we go through our items one by one and ask ourselves with self-love and self-compassion, is this an item that I have plenty of space for, that does not negatively affect my life in any way, that will continue to give me joy in the future? And if the answer is yes, then wonderful, keep that object. And if it's something that you can just simply take a picture of instead and still have that same wonderful, happy feeling about it, even better. And that is how you can go through all your items. That is where these decisions need to come from. We have to remember also that not all items have equal value. We can't keep everything because then nothing really has value. So you may want to also do an exercise where you think of maybe what you would fill in one singular bin from your past. Think about what those most valuable objects would be without going through them, because those are probably the ones that really are the most significant to you. And if they can all kind of fit in one controlled area, then that's probably something that's not going to, again, negatively impact your life to a strong degree. And above all, I want you to know from the bottom of my heart, no matter how you decided to answer any of these questions, that you are truly undefinable. You are so much more than your possessions. Yes, they are part of your past. Maybe they are part of your story right now, but you will continue to have stories in the future. Your story isn't fully written yet. We have so many good things to look forward to in the future, and sometimes holding on to so many items from the past really keeps us from going forward, because again, we're convinced that we have to live in the past because there are good memories there. But going forward doesn't mean that we have to erase who we were in the past. That person will always be there, but it doesn't mean that we can't grow and expand and continue on with this journey. I want to wish you so much luck and love in this journey. I know it can be difficult, it can be painful, but in the end, you're going to be thankful that you did it and that you really approached these topics, because not only will you have a better understanding of yourself, but you'll have an environment that is a lot more pleasant to be in. So as always, I truly hope you found today's video to be helpful, and if you did, please like it, share it, and definitely become a subscriber if you are not one already. We absolutely want you to stay connected, and I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope the rest of your day is extraordinary.